to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Ahearn foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 51. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
But that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
Today we're talking to Tori. Tori is a wife of 35 years and a mother of 3. And she lives in the Seattle area. However, she's lived all over the place in different states and countries. So welcome, Tori.
Welcome.
Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
So tell us about this living in different states and countries when you were growing up.
My father worked for Boeing, and he took an assignment somewhere different every 3 years. So Seattle was our home base, and that's where our extended family lived. And we lived in California, Seattle, Texas, Seattle. Then we went to Tehran and Iran, and then back to Seattle.
Oh, wow.
And then when I was in college, they moved to Indonesia, and I spent my summers there. And then they came back to Seattle, and then they went to Saudi Arabia. And then they came back to Seattle.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
a lot
adventurous.
Of moving.
That was a lot of moving, and every place we lived, we rented a place, and we'd change our rental home sometimes every year. So,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
we moved a lot.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. So before we get into anything about travel, I just want to hear, what are your top moving tips?
Yeah.
Oh, well, my mom was amazing. And the thing that I noticed that she did when we moved to Iran, it was a major move. So she had to decide how much of our household goods to ship over and what to buy there. And she had to buy clothes because at that time there really was no ability to buy Western things. And so all of our clothes she had to buy ahead for a year and a half because we'd come back to the States after 18 months. And so she went out and bought us all kinds of clothes that she predicted we would wear and fit in for the next 18 months.
Wow.
And she cleared out one bedroom of everything. And then all the things that were going to go with us to Iran went into that bedroom. And everything that was getting packed for storage was in the rest of the house. And so then the movers came and they packed all the house, but she had preserved every single thing we were going to take to Iran in a room with the door closed. And I think when you're having to transition like that, it's kind of nice to have a separate room to put everything in so that you don't get confused by the clutter of everything else. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So,
Do you apply that to travel packing at all then?
when I travel pack, I like to clear out a place in the bedroom and lay everything out where I can see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you moved a lot growing up.
Yes.
What about, like, as an adult? Did you enjoy that and so you continued to move? Or did you maybe, like, do the opposite? Like, no, if I don't have to move a bunch, I'm not going to move a bunch.
Well, my heart's desire was to have roots when I grew up. And but what was interesting was that I had itchy feet. So many times Leo and I would talk about moving or taking an assignment somewhere, but it never worked out to go anywhere. It was never the right timing for us. So I remember significantly the first time we were in a house for 5 years. That was the longest I'd ever lived somewhere. Wow, 5 years.
Wow.
And then we bought a house and we lived there for 7 years. I thought, wow, 7 years. Never been in any one place for 7 years. And now we're in a house. We've been here for 23 years in this house.
Wow.
Yeah. So roots are wonderful. And it is nice being an introvert. Moving a lot was hard. But it also helped to shape me a lot and to focus what was important. It gave me some skills that I don't know if I would have had. But I do love having the roots, but I love traveling. And so maybe that's my compromise, is that I love to see new places and experience new things. And it's nice to have a home to come home to.
I think I'm realizing that might be my compromise too.
Uh-huh.
Because I have all these desires of living in all these places, and then also like being engaged and realize like where I'm living and working, I'm like, I want to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Just that community is pretty special.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah. So, Tori, since you are a regular listener of the podcast, you know that we like to ask guests 3 standard questions, and now you get to answer these questions. So maybe you've even like thought about your answers for a long time. I'm not sure. But the first question is, why do you travel? And you've kind of answered a little bit already.
I like to see new places, meet new people, experience new sights, sounds, smells, foods. I love everything about seeing a new place. Yeah, very experiential.
What type of traveler are you?
I am a planner. I love the planning.
Welcome.
I was talking with my daughter about it last night, and she was saying, oh, yeah, you need to tell them, Mom, that if you plan a trip and then you don't get to take the trip, it doesn't make you all that sad because you had so much fun planning.
Oh.
Have you had that happen before then?
Yeah, well, I've had a couple of trips. Like one trip got delayed, and it was disappointing at first, and then it was like, wow, but it would have been over by now, and I still have it to look forward to. So I really enjoyed the anticipation of the trips. And then another trip I planned ended up being way too big and too expensive, as the dollar and the pound were not doing so well together. The price of the trip kept going up, so we canceled it. And then later I'm like, wait, we have free tickets. You know, we had frequent flyer mile tickets to fly first class to Europe. And we don't have to go for 3 weeks. We can just go for 5 days. That's where I start. I always start like that. We only have to go for 5 days. And then it's like, no, but we really should go over, and we could just do London. We won't do the whole British Isles. We'll just do London. And then it was like, well, we can't be in London and not go see Paris and the Eiffel Tower. So that trip extended to 8 days, and we were able to do it for a lot less than the 3 weeks that I was originally planning on. And it ended up being fun. I really just enjoyed the planning of it all, and even the paring down, just trying to figure out what are the bare basics of what you really want to do. Because I go somewhere and I just web out and I see all the things to do, and I want to do all of the things. And so it's been good for me to learn how to stay focused and figure out what are the key things for each person. And I enjoy interviewing each member of my family to find out, okay, these are some things to do in this place, and what are the things that are important to you? And let's pick one thing for each of us that we know that everybody hits a highlight.
That's so cool. I think that's been one of like the conclusions that like our guests collectively have helped us come to, is with the planning, is like, if you could do just one thing in a day, what would that be? You know, and I think that helps like prioritize, because there's so many intriguing things.
Yes.
And then also I think that helps like not overdo it.
Yes.
And
Yes, so that you take so much that you don't really have a chance to really absorb what you're seeing.
So can you go pretty hard energy-wise when you're traveling? Like, do you do the long days and the lots of walking?
I can do both. I'm an interesting mixture. So yeah, I can go all day, and then other kinds of vacations, I would rather just sit. Like, we're going to the Oregon coast this weekend, and mostly what I want to do is just be on the beach and reflect and pause. When we went to Hawaii with friends, I was very adamant that we didn't want to be busy. We didn't care if we saw all the sights. I just wanted to soak in the atmosphere and relax. And so I can do both. But yeah, when I'm in London, I want to I want to see it all. And we went to the British Museum, and all we got in was the Egyptian area, and Leo was exhausted, and he sat down next to a wall, and he fell asleep on the floor. And then we came back to get him. Wow. We came back to get him, and there was a whole field trip of school children sitting around him eating their lunches on the floor next to him.
And he was just asleep.
He was just asleep. He was just like,
oh my God.
So done. He was so done.
And is the rest of your family more like Leo or more like you?
And I don't know if we mentioned this, but Leo is your
Leo
husband.
is my husband. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It was not my
Cheryl and I
child.
know this, but
He can sleep anywhere. I'm very jealous. Very, very jealous.
oh, that is a good travel skill.
Yes. Yes. So, so Leo tends to be more, likes to have it measured, how much activity versus how much rest. And my kids, I think they can pretty much go. They could go all day, and it depends on the vacation. Disneyland is a go all day kind of trip for us, and everybody does. Yeah, everybody likes that part.
All right, so one final intro question, which is, what is your number one travel tip?
Have a really good plan, but within that plan, be ready to be spontaneous. I hate to waste time on vacation, like to spinning your wheels, trying to figure out what to do next, standing on a street corner, where should we go? I hate that. So I have a plan, and then if we see something that's cool, I'll be like, well, the next thing on the plan was going to be this, but let's go, if you guys want to do that, let's go do that. Yeah, so I like that, being able to take advantage of things when you see them.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I've learned, partly through doing this podcast, that different people use the word plan to mean different things. So for some people, a plan is hour by hour exactly what's happening. And for some people, a plan is a list of things that could happen. For some people, that thing must be in a particular order. For some people, it's not. So when you describe like what a plan looks like, what does that look like for you in your ideal perfect travel scenario?
So it depends on where I'm going. So Disneyland, I will actually plan out an hour by hour when we need to hit this ride, based on time on
So
waiting.
you're strategic with that one.
Like
then.
we don't want to. Again, I don't want to waste time on vacation. So if we can get to a ride early and not stand in line for it, I'd rather do that. So I have a plan based on statistics from a book that I read, and so I plan it out. But even within that, I know I joked the first time I took my family to Disneyland. I'm like, I'm the Disneyland Nazi. We're just gonna,
oh no!
here's our schedule. But they at first,
and you're gonna have fun too.
At first, Leo thought it was crazy, and then when he saw how seamlessly we moved around the park and got things done, and saw that we left the park when it got really busy, and we went and took naps. I built in rest time, pool time, meal time, planning your meals so you're not standing in line too long to get your food. So, I had all of that planned out, which restaurants,
So
with some...
Actually, the Disneyland ninja.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes.
I like that. I'm
Yes.
the ninja.
That's much better,
Yeah,
yes.
I like that. Yeah, so that trip is very planned. And then other trips, it'll be more like a list, maybe an order of things to do. It might have a sketch of a schedule on it, but it's a little more flexible. Like, let's do this in the morning and let's do that in the afternoon. I try to research it enough to know how long the travel times will be, how long to expect to be in a place, so that we're not surprised. Yeah. Negatively surprised. I like positive surprises.
Sure.
I like that. And is this list on paper or digital?
Paper. I love paper.
Okay.
So
So
then-
you travel with like a notebook, or what does that mean?
I'll actually write it out on a piece of paper and fold it up and put it in my purse or something like that.
There you go. All right. I like
So then what about the research that you do? Is the research primarily books, or do you use the internet, or some combination of those?
Combination of those, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like Rick Steves. I like the unofficial guide to Disneyland. And I did a lot of online searching for our driving trip that we did this last year.
Okay. Well, I
Very
think that's
cool.
a good segue to say, what sort of trip are you going to be telling us about today?
So when our son was about 16, 17 years old, he just said in passing that he wants to go to Japan and he wants to see the world. But he said wistfully, but I haven't even really seen our country yet. I should probably drive around our country before I go overseas. And I teasingly said, I'll go with you. And he said, okay. And then I thought it was sort of a joke, and we would just talk about it from time to time. Yeah, we'll go, and we'll take Zephyr, our Labrador retriever. Because when he was in high school, sometimes it was hard to find anything nice to say to each other, but we could always say something nice about the dog. Oh, Zephyr's so cute. Or he would pick Zephyr up and he'd let me hug him while he was holding Zephyr. And so Zephyr was sort of like the fun thing in the middle.
Buffer.
Yeah, the buffer. The buffer in the middle. And so we just started joking around and talking about this trip. And then we realized, actually, this would be really cool to do. And so I asked Leo how he thought about that. And he said, sure, go for it. It sounds like it would be a real epic time of making memories. But then the more we started to actually seriously plan it, Leo said, I'm kind of jealous. I'd kind of like to go. And so we said, sure, you should come too. And he got 30 days off of work, and we drove.
Wow.
Yeah, we drove all around the country in a car with a dog and a 19-year-old young man, and learned how to relate to each other as three adults, not as parents and child, and really worked through some things, talked through serious things, had a lot of laughs, heard what was on his heart, what kind of a man he was becoming, what he wanted to do with his life, his hopes and dreams. It was amazing. And then on top of it, we got to see the whole country. Well, almost the whole country.
Oh my goodness. That sounds like a movie.
It does. It totally does.
Coming of age film
totally
/ travel film. Yeah.
Because it seriously was amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So what was the plan for this trip then? What was your route?
Our route.
How did you?
So we've been to Oregon and California, so we decided to skip those states, and we drove to the eastern part of Oregon to Idaho, stayed in Boise for a night with some friends, and then we went down through Utah, stayed in St. George, Utah, one night, or 2 nights, and then we went to the Grand Canyon. And then we cut across New Mexico to Texas, visited a nephew there in Austin. And then we drove across the southeastern states, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, to Florida. Went to the beach one day, and then we met Catherine and our daughter, Catherine, and her fiance, Caleb, and our good friend, Tracy Ficca. And we rented a house in Orlando, and we did Disney World for 4 days with them. And, and then they flew back and...
So was that planned out like Disneyland is planned out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Big. It's really big there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we planned it out, but it was not as planned as I would do just for the 4 of us. It made it a lot more awkward adding 2 people that weren't used to our method. So there would be times where we would just stand around and I would say, okay, we could eat now, or we could go on this ride. We could go over here. We could do that. And everybody would just stand around and be polite. And, you know, when it's just the 4 family members, everybody pipes in what they want to do and then we go for it. And at one point, our friend Tracy said, oh, when we go to Disneyland, we just all make a decision and we just go. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you're here. We're just being polite.
Yeah. No, I've definitely experienced that before where, well, as a matter of fact, just my recent trip to Ireland that I did with 2 really good friends, right? Serena and Tom. The beginning of the trip, we were all sort of that way, like trying to pick a place to eat and nobody really wanted to say anything.
Yeah, I don't care.
You know, and it's just, it's like, oh, I don't know. And maybe somebody had a preference, maybe somebody didn't, I don't know. But like nobody would actually say something because we didn't want to bother anybody else. Yeah. So I get that.
One of my
And by the end of the trip, Ryan?
By the end of the trip, we had much less trouble with it.
Yeah, you were just laying it all out there. Yeah. One of my life philosophies is that it's important to put your cards on the table, because if everybody puts their cards on the table, you can make a decision a lot quicker than if everybody's being polite. So if you're like, I really don't want to eat Chinese, that solves that problem right there. Okay, we'll take Chinese off the table, and you know, so it just helps if everybody's honest, and then you know when you're compromising. What's terrible is when everyone is compromising for everyone else, and you end up doing something nobody wanted to do.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah, I've had that experience so many times in groups because I'm like, I'm fine to make a decision. You just have to tell me if you don't like something that I'm going to decide. I'll make the decision. And if no one actually cares, then I'll just make the decision. I also don't just want to be like, no one's opinion matters, you know what I mean? And so it's this weird thing as you're trying to feel that out with a group of people. And the larger the group, the worse it is.
Yes.
I've gone to Disneyland with like groups of 15 people before because I lived near there in college. And it'd be like 15 minutes of standing around. And I'd be like, let's just go on Thurner Mountain and then figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, just go somewhere. Just
go
do
somewhere,
something.
yes.
Because we're just wasting time right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then after Disney World, we drove up the Eastern Seaboard, hit Savannah, Charleston, and then we went to Williamsburg and did Busch Gardens. And then we went up to Washington, D.C., New York City, Boston, where we have family. We stayed with them for a couple days, and then up to Maine to Acadia National Park for a couple days.
Oh, wow.
And then across to Chicago and did that for a day and visited some friends there, a couple friends. And then we went up through Minnesota, Wisconsin, and across the Great Plains back home.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a map right now. And
Yeah,
you
me
guys
too.
went.
That's a big loop.
It was big. We covered 10,000 miles on the trip.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see the extent of the country, and like the prairies were so vast and so beautiful, so much more beautiful than I thought. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's so boring to drive across the middle of the country." It was just so different from Seattle because you could see so much for so far. You could see so much sky, and the grass was beautiful the way it blew in the wind. And so it was, I wouldn't want to live there, but I really enjoyed the days we drove across it. The sunsets and the rainstorms, and it was, I loved every part of it. But the best part was driving down I-90 into Issaquah, because when we left home, it was a late winter. Spring had not sprung yet. And so everything was cold, and the leaves hadn't furled out yet. And so when we came down into Issaquah, all the leaves were just like full, and it was so green. And it was that sense of
so driving home to that.
Home. Yeah, it was great.
That's so beautiful. So what helped you choose the time of year that you took this trip then?
Not wanting to be caught in snowstorms and not wanting to be too hot. So that was my strategy there. So we left mid-April and came back mid-May, and it worked out great. We had fantastic weather almost everywhere. We had one rainstorm one day when we were driving, but for all the days that we were sightseeing, it was sunny and beautiful, and 60s and 70s.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh man. So what were like your favorite, I don't know, 3 things? What were the favorites? I don't even want to give you a number. I can't.
Yeah, I feel like
So
3 is not enough.
it was ordered. So we had a couple of parameters on it. One, obviously, we had a dog, and so it limited what we could do and how we would see the country. So we did a lot of walking. We planned to go into the major cities, to not stay the night in the city, but to drive in mid-morning and leave mid-afternoon. And so we would park the car, and then we would take the dog on a walk. And I usually had kind of planned out an interesting walk that we might do. And then within that, we kind of wandered off of those. And so we would walk the dog, and we would find a place to eat that had outdoor seating that would accommodate the dog. And so it was actually a great way to see the cities where you're just telling yourself, it's just a taste. Like, I'd never been to New York City before, and I didn't get to see Central Park. We saw the Brooklyn Bridge and the 9/11 Memorial and Wall Street. And that was it was really cool what we did see. And I just told myself, I'll go back to New York some other time. But to walk around New York City with a Labrador was awesome, because people they don't get to see big dogs there, and so everybody wants to say hello to the dog. And so we ate at a hot dog stand and watched all the Wall Street people rushing around. It was fun. Yeah. So that was our city plan, was to just do that. And we did that in Washington, D.C. and Chicago. We did it in Savannah and also Charleston. And I would research a fun restaurant with some maybe local cuisine. And so we would pick one that had patio seating, and I'd call ahead to make sure the dog could come. And So that was how we planned.
Look at you.
I know.
I like that.
I know. I didn't want to be disappointed to show up at a restaurant
Yeah.
and have them
Yeah.
go, "Oh no, you can't have a dog on our patio."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was.
So you got like a sampler platter of the country, and then from that you can be like, these are my favorite things that I want to like
Yes.
eat more of.
Yes, that is exactly what we did. And then,
Always got to bring it to food, Cheryl.
yep, it's all about the food.
Yep.
And then we also wanted to hit some national parks, and so we hit the Grand Canyon, Acadia, and Niagara Falls. That was a state park, and Sioux Falls, Iowa was really cool. I just expected it to be a nothing kind of a city, but they actually had some amazing waterfalls, some cool rock formations there. Yeah. Oh, Ryan, I should send you a picture. You would be interested. Yeah.
And that's Sioux Falls, Iowa.
Yeah.
Because there's a Sioux Falls, South
Oh,
Dakota.
no, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. No, Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
okay.
I'm
There's
confused.
a Sioux City, Iowa.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yeah. And
Okay, and the only reason I know is because I have family that lives in South Dakota, and they're near Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have no idea about
have you
either South Dakota or
have
Iowa.
you seen Sioux Falls? Have you seen the falls?
I don't think I saw. Well, we were there in December.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't think we went and saw much outside.
Yeah,
It was like 20 below.
Yeah, just coping. Yeah, it was beautiful. So that was a really fun thing. And going to the Grand Canyon, we could take the dog on the rim, but we couldn't take her down into the rim. So I stood at the top of the rim and looked down and thought, someday I want to go down.
Yeah. Were you guys just on the southern rim, or did you do the northern
just the
rim?
southern rim.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the Niagara Falls was beautiful. It was still somewhat snowed. There was still some snow there.
Oh, that's cool.
But the sun was shining, so part of the falls were frozen and part of them were moving. It was, and then we walked with the dog across the bridge into Canada, and that was fun. Yeah, so we got to collect a country on the trip. I think that might have been Matthew's first time in Canada. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was cities, national parks, and amusement parks, and so collecting all the roller coasters. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Amusement parks, plural?
Yeah. So we did 5 amusement parks in Orlando for the Disney World. So Disney World has multiple parks there.
Right.
And then we did the Busch Gardens in Williamsburg.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did mention that.
What is Busch Gardens like? I didn't even know what it was other than I've heard the title of
It's
it.
kind of fun. It's not as polished as Disney is.
That's most amusement
Yes.
parks, so.
Yeah.
But it had the one in Williamsburg has a European theme, so they have they have pa bands and different kinds of they have German food and they have I don't know. It's kind of fun. One of the rides is Escape from Pompeii. It's a water ride, and you're in the volcano, and you're
fun.
shooting through fire. And they have some really, really crazy roller coasters. Though that's their main claim to fame. And their gardens are pretty. You know, their grounds are really pretty.
There are gardens
yeah,
then.
yeah. So
Okay,
like Disneyland, you know, all around there's flower plantings and.
Got it. It kind of reminds me, looking at pictures now, of like a Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah. I've never
type
been
of
to Knott's
style.
Berry, but I think probably very similar.
I've not been to Knott's Berry Farm either. When I first heard of it, I thought it was actually a berry farm.
It
so I
was.
didn't but like that's
Originally.
it.
Yeah.
But like I thought, it's like, why do people want to go to a berry farm? I don't understand why it's such a big deal. But I've been to the Busch Gardens in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we did all of the non-Disney parks the one time I was there. And so SeaWorld and Busch Gardens and Gatorland, which I've talked about previously on the podcast. Because of course, I mean, you got to go to
I
Gatorland,
know.
right?
We wanted to
You-
go to
you missed it.
Gatorland and we missed it, but we did stop and
It's-
get
yeah.
gator jerky at a road stop.
Oh, good for you!
How was
and
it?
How was that?
I did not eat it. It was for Matthew.
Did he like it?
Yeah, he liked it. He thought it was fun. I got peanuts. Georgia
sure.
peanuts.
Gator peanuts?
Georgia peanuts.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
so fun.
But yeah, Busch Gardens was. I like the way you described it, like not as polished. I think it was less theme of a theme park.
Yeah.
Because we didn't do like the Disney, but we did go and do the Orlando theme park because it had the Islands of Adventure, and I remember
You mean Universal?
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Universal. And it that was, I think, the last one that we did, and I remember being amazed at just the increase in the level of detail and like just how everything was interconnected in a way that Busch Gardens was more like, hey, there's roller coasters, there's rides. I really liked it because there were a lot of animals. So there was a lot of like biology stuff there.
Yeah, that's just the Florida one, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, because the stuff you were describing, like the European stuff up there, like that was not in the Busch Gardens that I went to. So they must each have different themes or So, but it definitely and I agree. It's more emphasized on kind of the thrill ride sort of a thing.
Yes.
More so than Disneyland
Definitely.
is. So.
They felt more dangerous than Disneyland roller coasters to me.
Yeah.
Well, at Disneyland, they actually call their rides a roller coaster type ride.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
On a lot of the descriptions. Yeah. It's kind of like how Taco Bell says that they're Mexican inspired.
We're just comparing Disneyland to Taco Time.
Oh, well, she has to tie it back to food.
Which is funny though, because I love Disneyland so much, but it is funny that they don't call them roller coasters. And I would say at Disneyland there's only a handful of things that are actually roller coasters, you know, and so yeah, but that's why I like it.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm like, I just want to be on a ride and see the fun story and whoosh around a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to be too terrified, but Matthew's job in life is to keep me facing my fears, and so he makes me go on all the roller coasters. There was only one at Busch Gardens that I would not go on with him, and it was a major loop-de-loop, and I've done a loop-de-loop at Disneyland, and it was okay, but this one was way too much for me. And then there was one we went on where it just made us all sick. It was like too bumpy. It was a bumpy ride. Yeah.
That's a bummer when that happens.
That's a real bummer.
And it made everybody sick.
All three of us felt queasy after that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the national parks, I didn't realize Niagara Falls wasn't a national park.
Yeah, it's a state park.
Oh, wow.
New York State Park.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how was it? Was it cool?
Oh, yeah. It was. I read about places or I hear about places and I think about them. So I've thought about Niagara Falls my whole life. I mean, Niagara Falls used to be the place where honeymooners would go, right? It seemed very old-fashioned and nostalgic to me. And so I have always wanted to go and see it and to see what it was all about. And it was more massive and awe-inspiring than I had expected. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah. It exceeded my expectations. It was
Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah,
That's so cool. Those are good moments.
yeah.
What did we call that on this podcast? It was like a redwoods.
Oh yeah.
It's
When I went to the redwoods,
Like-
I remember thinking, "Well, we have trees. We have big trees." And when we got there, I was in awe. It just took my breath away because they're so big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like a similar experience there.
Yeah. So you also talked about Acadia National Park?
Have you ever
Is that what it
been?
was
Have you
called?
guys ever been to Acadia or heard of it?
I've never heard of it. I've never been to Maine.
Oh, wow.
And so what even, like, what's its claim to fame?
So it is. Have you ever heard of Bar Harbor?
Nope.
Have you ever?
I've heard that name.
Have you ever heard of the book Blueberries for Sal? And
Maybe.
Yeah. So classic book written by someone who lived up in that area and wrote a children's book and drew the pictures from that area. So it's very, very rustic. It was a place where East Coasters would go for vacations in around the turn of the century. So it has a lot of old homes. There is a ton of waterfront. It's very much like the Seattle Puget Sound area with lots of nooks and crannies in the coastline and lots of islands. It's a lot like the San Juan Islands, and it's just beautiful and it feels very remote. And when we went, we got there the end of April. Acadia National Park had been closed except for a few areas for the winter. So they close it for the winter because there's so much snow.
Oh.
So some people go up there and go cross country skiing. But when we got there, they had just started opening up the trails, and it was a pouring down rain day. So it's on the coast, and it's on an island called Mount Desert Island, and you can climb up this Mount Desert and see for miles all the islands in Penobscot Bay. But the day we were there, it was pouring down rain, so that we were climbing up these granite steps. The whole hike was granite carved steps that somebody had done 100 years ago. And it was just gorgeous, but you couldn't see anything except for clouds and fog. It was actually really cool, and the water was running down the steps like a waterfall. So we were walking like walking in a stream and soaking wet, but so invigorating. And the person who owned the land to begin with in the turn of the century, they created all these carriage roads so that they could go on these nice rides in their carriages, and there were these beautiful bridges, and those carriage roads are close to cars now, and you can walk on them or ride horses. That's where the people would cross-country ski. So it has a very early 1900s, late 1800s feel to the park. It's just a lovely place. It's really busy in the summer. So it was fun to be there when we were, because we hardly saw a soul.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. I've also been there in the fall, which is exquisite. The leaves are phenomenal up there. And so, it's really great hiking and fun sights to see. Good food. Oh my goodness. Cheryl, lobster.
Yes.
Lobster mac and cheese.
I love lobster.
Lobster rolls. Yes, we ate lots of lobster in Maine.
I had a lobster roll in Boston, and I was like, my life is complete.
Did you know that
now.
McDonald's serves lobster rolls in Boston when they're in season?
What?
Yes, and they're good. They're good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, like,
that's
decent.
amazing.
They serve them on a hot dog,
That's
a
funny.
toasted hot dog bun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love a lobster roll. Yeah. It's so fun. So you shared about a couple things that really like blew your mind or were more amazing. Was there anything that was kind of the opposite that like let down and
Underwhelming?
The Mona Lisa, the underwhelming.
Yeah.
Oh, New Mexico. We did go to Santa Fe for a couple hours, and that was pretty, but the rest of New Mexico was very barren, and I would have been okay with it, but Zephyr was very underwhelmed with it because of the burrs. So we stopped at a rest stop to go potty, and she got a burr in her paw, and there were burrs everywhere. We had to pick them out of her paws, and then we had to spend the night at a hotel in New Mexico, and she would not leave the parking lot, but she will not go potty on cement. And so she was desperate. She was so sad. Aww. She kept looking out over the curbs and like, I can't go in there because it's pokey. Yeah, so I don't know what people do with dogs in New Mexico, but yeah, Zephyr was underwhelmed with New Mexico. Yeah.
Oh, man.
The only, I think for me, the only negative was the driving from Austin through Florida was insane. Everywhere else, everybody drove really well. The speed limits were fast. People drove fast, but they were polite and they would pull over. And it was just, everybody followed the rules. It was really easy driving. But yeah, Austin, Houston, New Orleans, it was insane. Yeah. Yeah.
Like everyone for themselves sort of a thing.
Very aggressive, very fast. Yeah.
My sister used to live in Houston, and yeah, she said that in person, people are really polite there and friendly and all those things, and then they get in their cars and just like...
I was not expecting that. I thought it was Texas, because the rest of Texas, everybody was really very polite drivers. Yeah.
I mean, Houston's one of the largest cities in the United States, so I think there's also just something to be said for, like, if you're in a big city, like, you just learn how to drive a little differently. And
yeah. Everybody's in a hurry. Yeah. Yeah, so no, not much was underwhelming. It was just every day was amazing.
That's so cool.
So if now that you've done it, let's say that you could have the knowledge and you got to plan the trip again, would you do anything differently?
If I had unlimited time and funds, I would go more slowly. But as it was, 30 days was a long time, and it was so no, I don't think I would. I think all of us felt like at the end it was the perfect vacation. It was.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. That's very cool. Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So what are those from the sampler platter? What are those top places that you're like, I'm really excited to go back to this place?
New York City, Chicago. Chicago really took me by surprise. I did not realize what a beautiful city that was, and I would love to go back and do more exploring. Oh, I want to go back to Utah. There is so much hiking there. The scenery there is so beautiful, and I know there was a lot that we didn't get to see. So it was, Snow Canyon in St. George. I did not know what to expect. Oh, one of the things I did was I tried to figure out where we could stay with our dog on a consistent basis, and figured out that La Quinta Inn was the best way because they don't charge extra for your dog, and all of them allow dogs.
Good.
And so it was just
Okay.
seamless to be able to just make La Quinta reservations all throughout the country. So that's one of the ways I planned the trip was, where's the La Quinta 8 hours from here? And so St. George, Utah was one of those places. I just figured it was just going to be a stop and we would find a place to hike. And it was a fancy town. I didn't know it was a fancy place. I thought it was going to, and it apparently...
What does that mean? What is a fancy town?
So I thought it was going to be like a podunk town, and it was actually like upscale. And somebody told me that there's a big theater scene there where shows from Las Vegas. It's not very far from Las Vegas. So the Osmonds have shows there, and so a lot of people come from Las Vegas and put on productions there. So they have a big theater scene, which I didn't know. And really fancy housing developments like vacation homes, I think, resort homes. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. And then we had a beautiful hike in Snow Canyon, which was that just took my breath away too. I just feel like every day we didn't know what to expect. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Oh man, that's such a good trip.
Yeah, it was such a good trip. That makes me want to go
so
again.
Cool. Man, we talk about other countries so much, but like I just did in the little Ben app where you can, like, one of our guests told us about it, and you can like record what countries you've been to. And I did the States one, and I've been to a fair amount of the States, but still I was like, man, there is a lot to see here, and there's a lot of variety. And so it's man, that list keeps getting longer too. And so much. The culture is so different from region to region. That was really fun to see. Rest stops were interesting. Like the rest stops that we have here are not very interesting or fun, but we discovered when we got more towards the southern part of the country that these truck stops are amazing. It looks like it's just a gas station and a convenience store, but then they have restaurants inside like Panda Express and Cinnabon and McDonald's, or just different kinds of fast food restaurants inside the gas station. And it's actually an official rest stop as well. So there's visitor information, there's restrooms. Some of them have showers, some of them have gyms. Like Leo and Matthew like to do pull-ups, and they went into one. They were so excited. There was a gym. They got to do their pull-ups. You can do laundry there. And they're really nice, like clean and modern. Wow.
Yeah. And, some rest stops in the East Coast they're dedicated, only people on the freeway can get to them. So you can only get to them from the freeway, and it's all set up with Starbucks and visitor info and restaurants. Yeah, it's gas. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
That's cool.
So we kind of enjoyed when we were like, oh yeah, that's where we want to stop for gas. Is we want to go to Love's. We want to go to a Pilot. So whenever you see those now, you'll know that those are actually really good gas stations. Good services.
That's very cool. So do you have any road trip advice for us?
Yes, we borrowed a cooler from friends that plugs into the car and runs a refrigerator unit. So you can keep your food cold without ice. Yeah, that was really nice.
Whoa.
And then,
like, how big?
It was like the size of, we could fit a jug of, like a carton of milk and some cheese and meat and fruit, yogurt, so, just enough, for...
But for a road trip, that's great.
Yeah.
So you had like a mini fridge in your
Exactly.
car.
It's like the size of a mini fridge. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was really nice. So we could have, I brought a panini maker and some cheese and bread so that we could feed Matthew. So, you know how teenage guys are. They have to be able to eat. And sometimes the food we were eating was not interesting to him. And so he would just keep us company, and then we'd make him something in the hotel room. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You really were well planned.
Yes. You don't want to have a hungry, crabby teenager on your hands.
No,
You could
definitely
have
not.
set up your own rest stop with that food,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think.
you're right.
Oh,
You're
it's
right.
true.
Yeah. Yeah, and just staying organized and not bringing too much. I always pack too much, and I packed too much on this trip. You end up wearing the same, you figure out what works, and you wear that over and over again.
What did laundry look like?
Oh, so the La Quintas often had washing machines in them, so we would just do laundry every, week or so. Yeah, and I kind of planned that out on the days. We had most of the nights we spent one night, and if we were going to do something somewhere, we would spend 2 nights, and those would be the days we would do laundry.
Okay.
Cool. That's a great idea. How much are they paying you for
La
this
Quinta?
advertisement?
Yeah,
that you're
they
doing?
should. They should. I've got enough points for one more free night. But they just merged with Wyndham, so I'm kind of excited because I think Wyndham is a little bit nicer than La Quinta. Some of the La Quintas were a little run down and sketch. Yeah, and some of them were really nice, and some of them were just middle of the road. Yeah.
So it wasn't consistent then.
No,
That's interesting.
No, I think they were in the process of getting an overhaul. And so some of them were definitely at the bottom of the list. Like where we stayed outside of New Orleans in one that was so old and run down. Leo said it looked like an old Howard Johnson's. It was probably 60s and hadn't really been touched since the 60s.
Oh, wow.
The railings were all rusty, and it was interesting. Yeah. Didn't really
Interesting.
want to shower there.
Sure. I could see that.
Oh, you'll just shower at the rest
That's
stop
right.
and you'll be
That's
okay.
right. We'll just go to the gas station. We'll shower there.
Yep. Oh man. Well, Tori, thank you so much for sharing with us this trip.
Thank you
It sounds
for
really
inviting
good.
me.
Yeah, so we have a couple wrap-up questions for you. The first one is, if you could take us with you to just one thing on this whole 30-day trip, what would it be and why?
I think it would be Snow Canyon because that was the first place that I was stunned with how beautiful it was, not knowing what to expect. Red rocks, cactus, lizards, interesting rock formations, and blue sky. And it was just so beautiful, like something I'd never seen before. And I really loved it and would love to go back there again. And they looked like some really nice places to stay nearby.
Nice. Well, we will take you up on your offer.
Yep,
if
whenever you
pack
want to
for
take us.
that would be great.
Are you guys ready to go road tripping with me?
Yeah. Yes, I think we are actually. Yeah.
Snacks.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And what's your next trip?
I think we're going to go to Disneyland next winter.
Ooh.
We're
So when in the winter are you looking at going?
Well, we need to figure out Matthew and our son-in-law Caleb's work schedules and work around that. But probably February, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am I don't think these episodes have actually
No, they haven't.
posted yet, so you would not have heard this, but by the time this episode posts, our listeners will have heard. That is kind of where I'm looking at going for my next trip.
Oh, well, you need to come with us.
You could, Ryan.
But I'll be the one more person.
Yeah,
though,
that's
Tori.
right. But now that I
you
know,
don't want me
now
to
that
be
I
the one more
know
person.
What if
you're
you
okay
guys
with me
truce
telling
on
you.
being honest with
Yes.
each other? You make
Be
a
honest.
pinky swear at the start of the trip.
No, but because I have been to Disneyland once in my life.
Oh, wow.
When I was in elementary school.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like you've been a bunch.
Yeah.
So to put it in context for you, when I was there, the Indiana Jones ride was under construction. Had not opened yet.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And you're going to go see Star Wars.
Oh, yes.
That's why he's going.
This is
so.
why. I mean, my sister is also having a baby in September.
Oh.
So I will also go, because she lives in LA, to see that.
See that? You mean see the baby?
Well, I mean, the baby isn't born yet, so I don't
that.
like them. Is that better to see them? Sorry, Carrie. Really, I love your kid already.
Already.
No, I don't know. Anyway,
Goodness.
apparently I'm a horrible human being. I'm used to it. Okay. But I am definitely want to go to see Galaxy's Edge, and I didn't want to go over the summer because I anticipated being really busy. Apparently that is not the case. It has not been as busy as they thought.
Really?
It was.
Yeah.
So everyone did the same strategy?
I think so. I think so many people were so concerned about how busy it was going to be that like they haven't gone. And they've even talked about online that like attendance in all of Disney has been lower this summer.
They locked out the season pass holders. So the locals are the bulk of the visitors. They thought people would be traveling to come to see the Star Wars, so they blocked out the season pass holders.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And I think that that's true. People would, but nobody wanted to. And this is what I wonder too. Like, I wonder how many of the people who are going for Star Wars are like me. Right? They're not the regular Disney goers.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Maybe.
Yeah, they're going to draw
like,
new people.
Right. So like I've wanted to go back to Disneyland, but I didn't really have like a motivating because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I got to get there. So it's like, yeah, it'd be fun to go sometime, but whatever. Well, now I have a reason to actually go.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go with like 50,000 of my not closest friends. Right. So it wouldn't surprise me if more people who are going for that reason think more like me.
Yeah, and so all your
know.
people will be there in February.
Well, that's my fear now is that so now I've waited. So is everybody else going to go later too? And also their second ride opens now in January.
Oh,
So
Oh, boy.
So a February timeline I think is going to be very good for you.
yeah.
So yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll be there at the same
Well,
time.
Ryan,
we can meet up.
Don't go over President's Week though. If you have to go over President's Week because that's
So
your
this is-
teacher break. Yeah.
See, this is the other problem.
Yeah.
So I'm actually probably going to go the weekend before.
Okay.
Because my school does a funky thing for midwinter break where we do the Thursday and Friday before that weekend and then only the Monday that week.
Oh, okay.
Whereas most of people take that whole week. So if I take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off the beginning of that week, I could fly down the weekend before, do Disneyland like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or
Yes.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Those
or
are
something,
good
and then
days
be
to go.
done by the time the weekend starts.
Yeah. Those are good days to go. Yeah.
So that's my general thought right now, but we'll see. So
But we are talking about having some planning episodes
Yes.
for
yeah.
Ryan's trip. So I think we're going to have you back on and talk about your ninja strategy.
strategy.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, I think Ryan, you would like my strategy.
I think I would too. Actually, what I think
Introverts unite.
Actually, what I think more than anything is I would. Generally, I like to plan things, but for something like that, it feels overwhelming to me, like the number of things, and I have to get it right.
Yeah.
So it would almost be like, okay, you just tell me what to do, and I will just go where you tell me when you tell me to go.
Yeah.
So
And that's why we're going to do some planning episodes
that's right.
for you.
So
right?
listeners, stay tuned.
That'll be fun. Oh, I can't wait to hear the after podcast after Disney.
Yes, after
Yeah.
show.
But if we're there, we'll definitely have to meet up.
Yes, for sure.
I'm going to have so much FOMO. I'm not an introvert.
No, you're not, Cheryl.
And Tori, do you have any travel questions for us?
No, you answer all my travel questions when I listen to your podcast.
Aww.
I guess that's good. So in that case, we're going to move to the last section of the podcast today called Wish You Were Here. And during this section, each of the three of us is going to share a travel attraction from our various travels that we have done over the years. And we're just going to do the one little snapshot, kind of like a postcard where you'd like see that little picture of this one thing that says Wish You Were Here. So Tori, what would you like to do for your Wish You Were Here this week?
Well, our other road trip that we took when the kids were younger was down the Oregon coast and the California coast. And on the Oregon coast is a place called Florence, Oregon, and they have the Oregon National Dunes, the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area. And these dunes are a couple of miles wide, like from the ocean in, and the sand just blows in, and you can see where the sand is covering Douglas fir trees, and because the sands are always moving, and they create these hillsides and these slopes, and they cover over parts of the forest, and you can rent boards at a rental place and go sandboarding. So it's like snowboarding, but it's on the sand.
Like down the dunes?
Down the dunes, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It is so fun. So you just, just put your little feet in the board and slide down the sand, and then you fall, and it's just all sand. It's and the sky is blue, and the trees are green, and they're just poking up out of sand dunes. It's pretty amazing.
How high are these sand dunes?
Oh, thousands of feet high, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Well, maybe not thousands. I'm terrible at measurements, but high, like high, maybe not thousands. No, because it's not like Mount Rainier, but maybe 500 feet. Yeah, maybe 1,000.
Wow.
But yeah, it's
but
just
still,
like a big hill.
Like if you're going down, it's going to take you several minutes to sandboard. Is that what you called it?
And you would
Sandboard
it actually
down.
makes me think of Star Wars, like trudging through the desert.
Yes.
So you might
like Rey
Yes.
at the beginning of The Force Awakens.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I
yes,
think
on
you might
Jakku,
like it,
definitely. Yep.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Awesome. Cheryl, what are you going to do for your Wish You Were Here?
Well, I'm going to do one in our home city of Seattle this week.
Awesome.
And it is a restaurant because, I love talking about food.
You do? You,
Yes.
Cheryl?
I don't know why this is not a food podcast, but, I guess
I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like a food podcast. So that's not always bad.
So it is a restaurant called Westward, which is on the north part of Lake Union. And it's a good restaurant, little pricey, but it's got yummy food. They have a really good brunch. But what makes it really fun is it's on the lake, and it uses that space in a unique way where some of the seating for the restaurant is Adirondack chairs that just face the water.
Well, so you have to lean forward to eat?
I mean, I think they put little tables between the chairs. I haven't sat in the chairs. Maybe, are you not an Adirondack chair fan yourself?
Well, yeah, but if I'm eating a meal, that seems like that'd be awkward.
Okay, well, maybe that spot's not for you. But then they also have some tables. They're practically on a dock. They're so close to the water. Just the water is right there. And it's really fun. So I went there for brunch with a friend. And it's not a huge restaurant either. So there is indoor seating, but we got some outdoor seating. And it was just we're eating on the water. And
that's cool.
The price is I don't know. It's more pricey for me, but I don't eat crazy at fancy restaurants or anything normally.
Yeah.
But still, considering the view, I was I feel like this is not that much to be right here and everything. And so, check out Westward. It's a really relaxing place. Give yourself some time to be there too. And if you're okay, maybe eat some small appetizers and drinks in the Adirondack chairs. How about that?
Yeah.
So do they have food that they're particularly famous for or anything?
I mean, I had oysters there, but I don't know if there's a particular thing. I've just heard, they have a good brunch and a good happy hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they probably only do brunch on the weekends.
Probably.
It's the worst decision.
Because that's when everyone wants to have brunch.
Well,
You want weekday brunch?
Yeah.
I want brunch all the time.
I mean, me too. Brunch is the best thing ever. So
I think that's my real problem is I just want brunch to always be available.
Yeah,
I want to
that's
have
very
brunch for
true.
dinner. Thank you very much.
I know. And when we were traveling, the restaurants that served breakfast, like if you just weren't sure, you were just going into a small town, it was a diner, you just always order the breakfast just for dinner. You know,
Because that's like
it's
reliable.
reliable. Yeah, they can't ruin
that
Yeah.
is
the
good
eggs.
advice. Yeah. Yeah. So go to Westward.
All right, that sounds fun.
Westward Ho. All right, Ryan.
Yes.
It's your turn. What's your wish you were here?
Oh, I'm going to talk about the Muckross Friary or Abbey. So it is in Ireland because obviously I have a lot to still share about from Ireland. And so this is interesting. So it's in Killarney National Park, which I think I remember, Cheryl, when I was sharing about Ireland, you commented, I think, being surprised that, because we usually think of national park and we think of like here in our
The
nation,
States.
but there are other
yeah.
nations that are also nations and have parks, and they're national parks. And so this is one of them, Killarney National Park. But the part of this that's the most famous is this thing called the Muckross House. And it's an old Victorian style house. And we were not interested. So we didn't really go into the house because you had to do like the 45-minute tour, and it was just decorated like Victorian, which is fine, but it wasn't really our thing. So we were like,
Oh, yeah. It looks very like Downton Abbey-ish.
yeah, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, that's cool. Not really the part that's the most interesting to us. So we went and we looked at the outside, and that was cool. And the grounds are huge, which is really cool. And we definitely enjoyed that. But there is a ruin of an abbey or a friary, or maybe it's both. And I'm not 100%. Maybe is an abbey for women and a friary for men. I'm not sure. I don't really know the difference. But the cool thing was, it was this ruin, but it was one of the coolest ruins I've ever seen, because not only can you walk around the whole thing, but it's multiple stories, and you can go into the second story. So oftentimes, like
Whoa.
if they're really tall, like floors have fallen down and things like that. So like you're just on the bottom level looking up.
Yeah.
Well, you can
If
get
you're even allowed inside.
right. And so this one was really different because a lot of the stone stairs and things were still intact. So you can actually like walk up. There were multiple staircases that you could go up, and you could walk
Wow.
along in multiple levels. It was like kind of confusing. It was easy to kind of get lost on where it was. It felt much bigger on the inside than it looked like it was on the outside. And then in the center, there's sort of a courtyard with these like arches that kind of make a square around. And in the center is this tree that is just like growing up in the middle. And so you can look at it from the bottom, like looking through those different arches, but you can also go up to like the second or third level, or third level, because there's this one section you go up even higher, and you can look down on the tree and look down on the courtyard inside. And
goodness.
it was super, super cool. And it was really, really fun. So if you end up in Ireland at some point in time
part of
and
my
are
list.
right, and end up in Killarney National Park, which a lot of people do. And again, the Muckrock House is really famous and well known. I would say you can go to the house if you want to. If that's your thing, definitely do that. But definitely take the time to do the walk. I think it's like maybe about a mile from the actual house. So it's not super far, and it's mostly flat. But definitely make the trek out to see the ruins of the friary and the abbey, because it's very cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Now I want to go there even more.
Okay.
I just looked at some pictures, and it looks like Narnia or something. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely cool.
Oh, awesome. Well, Tori, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We loved having you.
Thank you, Cheryl and Ryan. It was fun to talk about
Yes.
travel with you.
Yay!
All right, so we would love it if you would follow us on social media. We are at TimWe Podcast. That's TMWI for Take Me With You Podcast. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And hopefully Tori will share some pictures from her Great American Road Trip, and we can post some of those on social media so you can check those out there.
You can email us at timwepodcast@gmail.com and send us all of your Disneyland tips of how you ninja your way around Disneyland, or your favorite things to pack on a road trip. We would love to hear about it.
Yes, for sure. You can also call us and leave us a voicemail if you want to do any of those things, or like maybe leave me some specific advice for something that I need to be aware of for a trip to Disneyland as an adult. We'd love to hear from you. So 406-763-8699, or if you want it in letter form, that's 406-POD-TIMWE. We'd also love it if you would rate and review us on whatever you are using to listen to our podcast. That just helps other people be more likely to be able to find our podcast when they're searching for things, especially related to travel. You can also subscribe to make sure that you are notified for every episode as it comes out. And we would love it if you would share about the episode on social media so other people can hear about the cool road trip that Tori went on.
As always, thank you to Beth Reed Miller for our awesome artwork. You can check out more of her artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe. You can check out Erica's music wherever music is sold or streamed.
So one more time, Tori, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It was super fun to hear about your trip.
Thank you, Ryan and Cheryl.
Yay!
That's going to do it for this episode. So until next time, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you!
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and a little love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here wanting to be